My special guest today on What's Up with Wendy's podcast turned her unsweetened flavored water into one of the most successful beverages of our time. Joining me to talk about that and her brand new book, which is a must-read, Undaunted, founder and CEO of Hint Water, Kara Goldin is joining me. She is the founder and CEO of Hint Inc., best known for its award-winning Hint Water, the leading unsweetened flavored water, and author of Undaunted. She is an active speaker and writer and hosts the podcast Kara Goldin Show, where she interviews founders, entrepreneurs, and other distributors across various industries. I am so lucky to welcome to my show, Kara Goldin.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome, and I don't even know where to begin with you because your book, Undaunted, Overcoming Doubts and Doubters, I couldn't put down. I have a list of who I'm passing this book around to. It is just start to finish such a great read and so much information in it. I just loved it.
Oh, thank you. That is so nice of you to say that. It's it's been sitting with me for 4 years. It was my journal, and I've been so excited to just get it out there. And I think the best part is actually getting the response off of the book. People are like, "Oh my gosh, it really helped me to kind of break through something I've been trying to break through." So anyway, I really, really appreciate it.
I told all that my kids are in college, so I was like, you guys have to read this book. You have to tell everybody to read this book. It's just filled with so much good stuff. And
Thank you.
So you call yourself the accidental entrepreneur. Tell us about that and your path to taking to Hint to today.
Yeah, so I didn't start off my career thinking that I was going to be an entrepreneur. There are people who do that, right? And that are thinking their whole life, or maybe they figure out that they can't work for somebody. And for me, that was never who I was, or at least I thought. And prior to starting Hint, I had been in tech. I ran at America Online, the e-commerce and shopping program for 7 years, and built a pretty significant business for America Online. And this idea really stemmed out of my own interest in trying to get myself healthy. And I had taken a couple of years off. I had 3 kids under the age of 4 at the time when I really was taking this break and wanted to get healthy. And I'd been looking at all the things that I was eating and not really paying attention to what I was drinking. I was drinking diet soda, Diet Coke in particular, so I didn't really think that there was anything wrong with that. But because I started reading ingredients, that's when I saw the ingredients in my Diet Coke can, and I thought, gosh, like, why aren't I paying attention to this? And I'm just paying attention to the food. So I did a little test, and that's when I realized that just by drinking water, that was better for me and cleared up some of my health issues. And I should back up and share that it was not just it was something that I had been living with for quite some time. Could never get a diagnosis out of any doctors, but I had developed terrible adult acne over really like 15 years. It had just progressively started getting worse. And I had been to a bunch of dermatologists and, tried to figure out through cosmetics and whatever, and nobody could ever figure it out. And then my energy levels were collapsing. And then finally, I just started gaining all this weight. And through all the pregnancies, was gaining more and more weight, but could never lose the weight. And so that was really where I decided that during this time that I'm not working, that's what I'm going to do, is get healthy. Anyway, getting back to the story, when I eliminated my diet soda for a couple of weeks, and 2.5 weeks later, just felt so much better. My skin had cleared up, and I had lost 24 pounds in
Wow.
2.5 weeks. I mean, it was kind of, I kept thinking, gosh, did I not actually look at the scale properly 2.5 weeks ago? Because I just had never really, I had stopped getting on the scale because I had just really seen this thing that was kind of out of control for me, and I didn't know how to control it and had essentially given up. So anyway, so I'm drinking water, and friends are really asking me, what I've done. My skin looks better, my energy levels are better. And I was telling them my story of how shocked I was around just making this one little switch. And that's when, I guess it was about 6 months into it, I started slicing up fruit and throwing it in the water, just thinking, otherwise I'm going to not be able to do this for very much longer, because I was so bored with water.
Right.
And that's when, kind of the early days of Hint were formulating. But again, for me, there were a million reasons. Something I talk about in the book is clearly the doubts came up, and I hadn't been a beverage executive, so why should I be able to just go and launch a company? And
Right.
again, this is formulating over that 1 year period at this point, and this new store, Whole Foods, had just come into the San Francisco Bay Area where I live. And there were all these unique products on the shelf that were healthier, or I thought they were healthier. And that's when I thought, gosh, maybe while I'm kind of in my in-between stage, and maybe I should just get a product on the shelf at Whole Foods. But, ideas, as I always tell entrepreneurs, are a dime a dozen, right?
Right.
It's your
Right.
actual execution and right? And
Yes.
going and doing it, and was kind of the key. And certainly I laugh about it now, but I always say family and your really close friends are the worst, because they'll try and help you, but the minute that they see this glimmer of doubt coming through, that's when they'll pile on with it. When you say, "Gosh, I don't know if I should really go start a beverage company." Yeah, you probably shouldn't, right? And you're like, "That's not what I needed. I needed you
That's
to
right.
say go." So true.
So,
Yeah.
hence the title of your book, Undaunted: Overcoming Doubts and Doubters, of course.
Yeah.
I just find your story interesting, because here it was, mom, three kids under four, and we all as moms know that you were never really the same after we have children anyway, and you don't realize these little things can add up to a lot. So you didn't realize drinking all that diet soda was doing this. And like, why I love Hint so much is because I'm forever putting fruit and lemon in my water, the only way I can drink it. So that's why I'm the hugest fan.
Oh, thank you. Well, and that was it. I had never tried doing that before, because I was a Diet Coke addict.
Right.
And people who
Like so many, right?
yeah, and it was crazy. And again, I started thinking during this period of time how I had become so hooked on this product. And I remember my mom used to play a ton of tennis. I grew up in Scottsdale, and she used to play a ton of tennis, and she'd always be drinking Tab. And of course, I wasn't going to drink Tab, because that was her drink. And Diet Coke came out, and I thought, okay, well, it has very minimal calories, and so that was really what I had kind of been trained to think about in a drink. And I don't even think I liked it when it first came out, but then I just got used to it, and I just kept drinking it. And then it became a point where I mean, it's funny, of course no one told me this while I was running my team meetings at America Online, but people would now tell me that they wouldn't even come to one of my meetings unless they had a Diet Coke in their hand, just in case, because I was such a wreck if I didn't
That's
have,
funny.
right? And
Yeah.
I mean, these people that are like this. And again, it was really, I had such an attachment, and little did I know, I mean, at that time, 15 years ago, when I started Hint, it was 10 diet sodas had 10 calories. They hadn't perfected the 0 calorie thing yet. And so it was, again, I kept thinking that it was all about calories and less about what you're actually putting into your body and how your body's reacting. But as time went on and I started to think about what I had been doing to myself, things like, the adult acne. I mean, your skin is your
Mhm.
largest organ.
Right.
And I've talked to many doctors about this. And, rather than actually putting something on your skin or taking injections or or, taking antibiotics, actually figuring out if it is something that you're putting into your body is, it's kind of like the smartest thing to do, but we just don't do that so often. I cared more about what I was putting into my car than what I was putting into my body, which is pretty sad and pathetic. But I have to say, there's a lot of people like me out
Yes.
there that
Yeah.
they're just not thinking about it, and they have a lot of trust. So that was me.
Amazing. Amazing how it started, because you think so many people are like, oh, I can, do this, and they can't. And you like you said, you didn't know anything about the beverage industry. I love there's a couple stories in there that I love so much. I love your story about speaking to the Coca-Cola executive. Can you share that with us? Because that was like, just showing up. That reminded me of me when I first came to New York City. I'm like, I'm just going to go there. I could just do anything. So I love that story.
Yeah, well, the story of getting my first job at
Yes, yes.
Fortune. Yeah, so I was I as I mentioned, I grew up in Arizona and went to school in Arizona. And when I finally was, everybody always asks you when you're a senior in college, like, oh, what are you going to do? And I think we're more careful now as adults to not pressure, right, the
Mm-hmm.
kids into doing it. But I certainly got my fair share of what are you going to do? And I was working at this local restaurant in Arizona all through college. And it was just super easy. Whenever I needed money, I could go and work at this place. And anyway, there was this one guy that always came in, and one day he said, "Oh, you must be graduating soon. What are you going to do?" And I said, "I don't know." And I just said, something, anything, get me out of here. Right? You're at that
I
moment
know. I
where,
love the story. Go ahead.
and so he, ended up telling me that, I said, well, he had asked me what I do, and obviously knew that I was graduating. And I said, so what do you do? And I just thought that was kind of appropriate. It was part of human communication, just going back and forth. And he
Yeah.
said, oh, I'm an executive at Anheuser-Busch. And I said, you mean the beer company? And he said, yes. And I said, so what do you do? And he said, well, I travel a lot to Arizona because we film a lot of commercials and different movie shoots here. And so my job is actually to make sure that the product is on the set and used in the right way. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Your job is to do product placement on a movie set or on a commercial set. Can I come and work with you or for you? Anything. I'm a college student, right? And
Right.
I
I'll
thought
sweep the floors. I'll do
it'd be
anything.
amazing, right? Beer. And why not? It seemed great. And he said, well, I can definitely connect you with an interview. Anyway, that conversation that day ended up becoming a 1 month journey for me, which was life changing. I basically had a list of companies that I really wanted to work for. The sort of granddaddy of them all was Fortune magazine in New York
Mm-hmm.
City. I'd never been to New York before, and I thought, okay, well, this job at Anheuser-Busch was actually based out of LA. So I'm going to start in LA. And then I went to San Francisco and Chicago and Boston. Anyway, 1 month and over 90 interviews. By the way, I had over 60 job offers from those interviews, and nothing fancy. They were either like the mailroom or one level above the mailroom,
Right.
nothing crazy, but they were incredible companies. And I just learned so much about myself. And the other thing that I think, I always share this with college students or also, new grads, is that I found that the more information I gave people about what I really enjoyed doing and what I ultimately wanted to do, that they wanted to be a resource and help. And so I would say, yeah, I'm going to Chicago next, and I have a couple of interviews, but hey, if you know anybody there that might be hiring an entry level person, I would love to just go and speak with them. And it was amazing how many people who I really didn't know wanted to help me. And it was crazy, and it was like I didn't have people coming on campus that were